Okay, so after not learning in the order for a long time, so we're finally going back, and before Pesach, we were learning 14, yeah. Before Pesach, we were learning about the halachot. Good evening, Davening. Halachot of Tefillah, of Kriyat Shema, and we're now learning halachot which are written in Kriyat Shema and Tefillah. It's quite a base by the poskim for the halachot of tzniut, of modesty. I got a question. Let's start. I got a question last week. Someone asked me last week. A man was very thirsty, okay, and for some reason he didn't have his shirt on. He was he's in the beach. He has a bathing suit on. He doesn't have his shirt on. Does he say the bracha of Shehakol? Yes. Right? You say obviously, right? You say the bracha of Shehakol, and for some reason, in that specific question, a from guy, he thought that you don't say the bracha. You can't say a bracha if you don't have a shirt on. You can't say a bracha if you don't have a shirt on. What? It's we learned today. You can say a bracha even in more questionable cases. You do say a bracha. Okay, so a man can say a bracha without a shirt on. Even a woman can say a bracha without a shirt on. You can say a bracha without a shirt on.
A woman say a bracha in the mikvah?
Yeah, a woman says a bracha in the mikvah. You're right. A woman says a bracha in the mikvah. Well, she's covered in water, but yeah, a man can say a bracha in the mikvah, covered in water. And we'll talk here now about water. We will go through it fast because how often do we say a bracha in water? Let's say as a joke, there's two guys going to a big rabbinical event, and they're up until late at night. So obviously they wake up late in the morning, and they're wearing just simple pajamas. One of them, he goes, "Where is the Shulchan Aruch?" The Shulchan Aruch says, yes, yes. The Shulchan Aruch says, no, no. The other guy needs the feeling of davening, needs everything. Wake up, look at the watch. 1 minute for Kriyas Shema. The guy who's just wearing pajamas or even just panties or boxers and underwear, he rises up, he says, Kriyas Shema, washes his hands and says Kriyas Shema. The other guy says, it's time of Kriyas Shema, but how can I dare say Kriyas Shema when I'm not fully dressed? So he gets ready, washes his hands, put the garter on, goes to Shulchan Aruch the first way, and we're going to today. So, talking about tzniut, modesty. Okay, modesty, we're talking here about being modest while saying Kriyat Shema or davening. For most of the halachot, not all of them, for most of the halachot, they're quite similar. And we have here two issues. One is a person towards himself. A person towards himself, even when he is alone. Another issue is when a person is next to other people who they aren't dressed in a modest way. Okay, for example, in our shul we don't have any problem because our mechitza, our women's section is higher than the rest of the shul. But what happens if you have a shul where the women's section is the same level? There's no mechitza, so you can see through, and some of the women aren't dressed in a modest way. So can you daven in cases like that? Or if you're in the mikveh now, and for some reason you have to say a bracha, and there's a person next to you who's not dressed in a modest way, can you do it or no? So we have here two topics. One is a person to himself when he's alone. Can his intimate parts be exposed when saying a bracha? And the second topic is when with other people. So we'll start the first topic today, and if we have time, we'll also get to the second topic. If not, we will continue it next week. Obviously, lechatchila should always be dressed, but sometimes I don't know. Sometimes you aren't. Sometimes you wake up in the morning, you have 1 minute before Kriyas Shema, or you're in the swimming pool. Sometimes you have different cases that you can't always be as you wish to be. So a person for himself. We have one halacha which seems quite obvious. The intimate part of the person shouldn't be exposed when he says a bracha. Okay, that's the first. Shouldn't be exposed when he says a bracha. He should be covered on the bottom part of the body. halacha, which maybe that's the source for a gartel, a gartel that Hasidic people wear. There's halacha that was said in Hebrew and then translated, "Shelo yeh libo ro'eh et ha'erva." The heart shouldn't see the lower part of the body, the intimate part of a man. So שלא יהיה ליבו רואה את הערווה, or someone else. So even if the eyes can't see it, but the heart as if can see it, so we have to create a separation between them. Maybe it shows that in Judaism we realize that the body is a holy, not just the eyes, also the feelings, our emotions, which when you do a heart to someone, you show the emotional part of it. So not just the mind should be holy, but also the emotions. Especially when we daven, especially when you say brachot, the heart shouldn't be seeing the intimate parts. Now, obviously, you'll ask, I can understand how the eye can see. How does a heart see? Right? So how does a heart see? It means being in the same area without any separation between them. In the past, when they had a garment and they didn't have any belt or girdle, so the heart and the lower part of the body are in the same section, the same part of the same covering. Or in the past, they used to sleep without any clothes. They didn't have pajamas. And that seems to be very, very common in the past. So someone could be covered. He has his blanket on him or some sheet, and but his heart and the other parts of the body are in the same place. So he can't say any bracha. Therefore, he needs to do a separation. So in those days, what's the separation you do? You have a belt, you have a girdle on you. In our days, it's almost not an issue because we have underwear, and underwear have an elastic in them. So the underwear create a separation between the lower part of the body and the top part of the body. So halachically today, if someone will ask you, and here's another question, do we need to wear a girdle? What will be the answer? Halachically, no, you don't need to wear a girdle. Maybe one can wear a girdle with as an action of preparing himself for davening, so he puts a girdle on, puts his mindset for preparing himself. But you can also prepare yourself in any other things. Also a belt, exactly. Also a belt can say the same idea of a girdle, but you don't need a belt because even if you don't have a belt, most chances you wear underwear. Unless you're Scottish, but that's not part of the topic here. You're American, right? So, yeah. So that's an important halacha, שלא יהיה לריבו רואה את הערווה. The Shulchan Aruch here does bring a question that sometimes you can be in the water, and what happens when you're in the water? Can the water separate between the top part of the body, the lower part of the body? There's what happens if you cover yourself with your hands? But since I don't think you ever said a bracha when you aren't dressed, so we will skip them. Something that can happen, maybe a halacha which we should notice it, if someone is in hospital, and he's in hospital and he just had an operation or so, whatever it is, so he has, how do you call that, robe, the hospital robe, and that doesn't have a separation between the top part of the body and the lower part of the body. So then he should put his hands maybe on the robe, and with his hands make the robe a separation from the lower part and the top part. That's, I think, a common case. I don't remember if they have belts or don't have belts. I'm not sure. That's
Like ties in the back. Ties.
on the back. Okay, if it ties and it's really
I can't remember.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So all have great health, and we shouldn't know what those robes of hospital have they look like. The last seif, we have time, I can see. So the last seif in this Ayin Dalet in 74, I'll read it in Hebrew, and then I'll translate it, just so you can see the Shulchan Aruch writes. הייתה טליתו חגורה על מותניו לכסתו ממותניו ולמטה. From the motnayim, the waist. From the waist and lower, he has some kind of cover. He has shorts, and the shorts also touching his waist. So also his intimate area is covered. And also this the elastic or whatever it is is holding these pants, and he has a separation between the lower part of the body and the top part of the body. אף על פי שממותניו ולמעלה הוא ערום, although he is naked from the top part of the body, he's shirtless, he doesn't have a shirt. Do you say קריאת שמע or don't say קריאת שמע? says the Shulchan Aruch, yes. מותר לקרות קריאת שמע. He is allowed to read קריאת שמע. He can read קריאת שמע. And we'll also add here and say any other brachot, for example, the blessings before קריאת שמע. So he can read קריאת שמע even if he has shorts on. A person went to the beach, he's swimming at the beach, he didn't notice the time, he looks at his watch, 1 minute left before the end of קריאת שמע. What does he do? Say קריאת שמע there in the beach, right? Say קריאת שמע in the beach. Okay, but about davening, אבל להתפלל אסור עד שיכסה ליבו. To daven, person shouldn't daven until he covers also his heart, until he has also a shirt on. I said mostly there are similar Kriyat Shema and davening, besides a few differences, and here is the difference. Why is davening different than saying Kriyat Shema? Both of them we're saying verses to make the question even harder. According to the Ramban, when we daven, it's a mitzvah midirabanan, it's a rabbinical mitzvah. But many opinions hold that when you say Kriyat Shema, it's a mitzvah from the Torah. So how could it be that for mitzvah from the Torah, you just need to have your shorts on, and you can be without any shirt on? But for rabbinical mitzvah, you have to have your shirt on. Why is that? We'll give you an answer from Lag BaOmer, and then which is connects to here from the answer. In another week, we'll be celebrating Lag BaOmer, right? And one of the things we have about Lag BaOmer is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who was in the cave for 12 years plus 1 for 13 years. How did he have clothes to cover himself for 13 years without them getting ruined? It's in the sand, right? So when he learned Torah, what did he do? He covered himself with sand when learning Torah. When did he put his clothes on? When he davened. When he davened. So when he davened, he put his clothes on. And the reason is, when we daven, we should see ourselves as if we are standing in front of a king. Unless you live in Africa, you don't go to a king if you don't have any shirt on, right? So you go to a king, you make sure you're dressed nice, you tuck your shirt in, you clean yourself, you straighten your... So when we daven, we see ourselves as if we're standing in front of a king. When we are saying Shema, we're doing a mitzvah, we're accepting on ourselves the kingdom of Hashem. We're accepting on ourselves doing all of the mitzvot. But we aren't standing in front of the king. It's more of a personal. I say now that I believe in Hashem. I say now that I will accept all the commandments, all the mitzvot. But I'm not now standing in front of the king. Therefore, when for saying Kriyat Shema and all the rest of the blessings, we can say the blessings without a shirt on. But for davening, that already we should have a shirt on. That's why sometimes you'll see people more maybe in the Haredi or Shivish world, before the daven, they'll put a hat on. That's why the Hasidish will put a garter on before they daven. They have underwear. Why do they put the garter on? Preparing, standing in front of the king, making yourself look respectable.
Not quite many folks prefer that you not wear shorts when you...
The Chazan, right? It's the honor of the congregation and the people davening in shul. So today, I think if we would go to a meeting with one of the ministers, unless we're trying to present a company, most chances you go the way you're wearing now. I think most chances. Probably, especially in Israel. Maybe in the States you'll be different. But in Israel, you go like that. Some of us would do... The Knesset has a law that you aren't allowed to go into the Knesset without socks on. But if the Knesset wouldn't have this law, I'm sure most of the Israelis, maybe almost all of them, would go to the Knesset with shirts and flip-flops. Even if they meet now the Prime Minister. Okay, so how are you doing? Have a selfie. So the culture of Israel, even when you go to there was a Knesset member, do you remember? A few years ago, had a selfie with Trump. Trump came to visit in Israel, and he took his camera and had a selfie. That's more of Israeli. I'm not sure any American Congress person would do such a thing. So can we daven today the way we are dressed? Probably yes, because that's how we would go to a meeting. But before we daven, we should just make sure we are dressed clean ourselves. If you have clothes and buttons, and make sure we are dressed in a respectful way. And so we finished, or we skipped some of it, but we finished 74. Ayin Daled, the halachot of modesty, tzniut, with focusing on a person when he is alone. And now we're talking about a person with other people, mainly when we are talking about a man next to a woman. And that's Seman Ein Hey. And it brings here, before we go into it, it brings here quite a question, because not everywhere you could daven in a good way. Somewhere you have a problem. So the question is, and that I don't think we'll be able to reach today, can I close my eyes? If I now I am at the bus station, not in Israel, so there's no shul in the bus station. I look at my watch, I see the sun going down, and mincha is ending in 5 minutes. I have to daven there. Okay, can I close my eyes? Can I turn towards the wall? That's questions which hopefully we will discuss next week. This week we'll discuss what is considered a problem. What's considered a problem? Says the Shulchan Aruch in Ein Hey, and people learning the halachot of modesty, of tzniut, that's one of the known sources. A tefach, which is a hand, how do you call this measurement? One hand, fist, yeah, one hand, fist. An exposed tefach in a woman, in a place where where women cover it, even if it's his wife, so you can't daven facing or seeing that. And so if a person is now with his wife, a person with his wife, and now he's saying Birkat Hamazon, and she's in the house, so they're private, there's no one there, the door is locked, no one's coming in, but she's wearing a sleeveless shirt, so he can't say Birkat Hamazon facing his wife, okay? Because that's considered an erva, an intimate place, a place where people cover. I won't go into here to all the details, but the Mishnah Berurah here talks about and we have here a big question: how do we decide what's considered something which is the regular thing of covering? If you go, for example, to Mea Shearim, so women cover all the hands until the hand, right? So other places, women cover until the elbow. Okay, so and these measurements are quite without talking about halachot for women. How should they dress? It's also halachot for men. Can a man say Birkat Hamazon in a case like that? What happens if women in that case don't dress in a modest way? So we'll just give just a bit of it, and then we'll go to the final line. Davening in a shul. Davening in a shul when there is no mechitza or a glass mechitza, and women aren't dressed in a modest way, is problematic, okay? Because you can't control women dress, and davening while facing women who aren't dressed in a modest way, that is problematic. As a man, so in some shuls, they're behind you, okay? Some shuls you have side by side. I was in a shul where it was built, I think, like half a circle, or you had what is it? Yeah. So it's on the side, okay, on the side, so you can try and find a place where you are fine. But in some places it's shaped like a U, and the men sit like a U, and the women are on both sides. So if you sit in the back of the U, you are facing towards the front, so you are fine. But if you're sitting in one of the sides of the U, that could be a problem. Okay, that could be a problem, and that brings the simple what to do. The halakha, I said we'll discuss probably next week. Okay, if you're headed davening.
Can you daven next to a married woman who doesn't cover her hair?
What is it?
That's can't be
so
married woman who doesn't cover her hair. Can you see your
So maybe I'll skip towards the end, and then we'll go to the details next. Okay, so this week we'll skip to the end. I can see, and then. Okay. And And for your wife, for example, your wife who doesn't cover her hair. Yeah. Okay. And here we have an argument between the Shulchan Aruch and all the later poskim. Okay, so it says the Shulchan Aruch. If someone is sitting in front of a non-modest place, and he turns his face around, or he closes his eyes, or it's nighttime, or he's blind, okay, so it's fine. He can say Kriyat Shema or daven, because it depends on seeing. The pasuk says, "V'lo yira'eh becha ervat avar." You shouldn't be seen unclean or things. So according to Shulchan Aruch, it depends by seeing. If you close your eyes, that's fine. Obviously, if it's night and you know, even if you know there's something there, but if you can't see it, so it's fine. Okay. That is in contradiction to something which we will learn hopefully in the future. If you are in a place which doesn't stink, it stinks, doesn't smell nice. Okay, even if you can't see the source of smell, but you're in a place where it doesn't smell nice. So in that case, it doesn't depend on seeing. It depends on being in the same zone with a bad smell. That's about something bad, a bad smell. Here, about seeing a woman or man who are undressed appropriate, so it depends on seeing. So said the Shulchan Aruch, if you close your eyes, you are fine. So according to the Shulchan Aruch, if you're at home and your wife isn't covering her hair and you want to say Birkat Hamazon, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Or turn around a bit. That's according to Shulchan Aruch. This is fine. The Mishnah Brura brings here many achronim. The Taz, Tuwei Zahav, and the Gra, and the Graz. The Graz is Shulchan Aruch Harav, right, Rabbi? Chabad, the Shulchan Aruch Harav, and Chaye Adam, and there Chaim brings many poskim who argue with the Shulchan Aruch, and they hold that closing your eyes doesn't help, and they even hold that even just turning the face around doesn't help. You have to turn all the body around. Like, all the body should be focused in davening. And if now the eyes are closed, but in the end, we live in a hole. We live in a whole body. If we're closing your eyes, it's still in the as soon as you open your eyes, so you see something not good in front of you, and so it's still in your mind. If you wanted to be able to say Kriyat Shema or davening or Birkat Hamazon in a place where there's people who are dressed in a modest way, the only way to do it is to turn all of the body around. Therefore, in a case, just like you said, in a shul that it's shaped for you, and there's a glass mechitza, and there's both sides, there's women who aren't dressed in a modest way, it's a problem. You have to sit down in the back of the shul and just face the front of the shul, and then you don't see women in front of you while davening. Okay, so we brought here the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch. I'll say the Eved, if something, so you can do it, but the Shulchan Aruch says that it's a problem. Most poskim say it's a problem. The reason of it is, in the end, as we mentioned, we're trying to find the right words for it. We feel something with as soon as we know that we're in a place with distractions, so we're distracted, right? Even sometimes people say about the phone. If I see the phone in front of me, even if now I'm looking towards here, but I know in my conscience that the phone is here, I'm with my phone. I'm with my phone. If I really don't want to feel it, so I'll move it away from me, put it in a different zone, okay? Or hide it from my sight completely. And then I am now focused in davening. I'm focused now in the people in front of me. When I have something which can distract me and I'm with it, next to it, so that that could be a problem, according to those achronim. There could be here a place to be more lenient. It could be a place to be more lenient. And the poskim say that if there's also mechitza, if it's from glass, so the mechitza from glass creates a separate zone. So physically, I'm already separated, right? That's already creates something in the mindset. I'm already separated. There's a mechitza from glass. It's glass. It's clear. The problem is now just seeing. Then closing the eyes will help. Okay, but if I'm just facing without anything separating between us, so And then the feeling of a person is also the subconscious, is conscious, everything is together, and he knows there's unmodest people here, and he's still his mind isn't clear to us. So it can be in a case like that, in a shul which is shaped like you. The best thing we said will be to sit in the back area. We could just see the front, and that's it. If they have a mechitza from glass, and the mechitza is tall enough, okay, the mechitza is high enough, and it separates between the people, so then closing the eyes will help. Okay, so that's and we end with this now. Bezrat Hashem will continue next week. Yeah.